Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. Hopefully we'll have an interesting presentation for you. Cerrado Gold is a new and emerging story that a lot of people don't know about. It's only been trading since February of 21. So it's one of the few names I think that people are still getting used to and understanding. We are in production and we have a long track record of moving projects through from the early days of initial exploration and definition all the way through from construction and into production. The team is led by Mark Brennan, who's our executive chairman. Long history in mine development and operations through developing the Largo Resources Maracás vanadium mine in Brazil. And a lot of the technical team has continued to move with them. They started back initially with Desert Sun Resources and re-optimized and repositioned the Jacobina mine in Brazil and then sold that on to Yamana for $700 million. So now we're looking at developing Cerrado Gold, and as I'll demonstrate, it's a two-phase sort of story. At a very high level, we have two core assets. First, in Argentina, which is still politically a little bit uncertain at this point in time, but is moving forward to more obvious conclusion over the course of the next year as we go into a political year. What do we have in Argentina? We're in production in Argentina. We produce around 50,000 ounces of gold, having turned around a very much an underperforming mine that we acquired in the early part of 2020. And despite COVID and all the restrictions that were put in place, we were able to grow from 20,000 ounces of production to roughly 50,000 ounces of production today. We have 330,000 hectares of land, probably the largest land package in the Cerrado Massif, which many people review or refer to as the Nevada of South America in terms of potential of gold resources, albeit not explored as much as the others. We have great neighbors. We're smack between Cerro Vanguardia and Cerro Moro, owned by Yamana, and we think exploration will be a key driver over the long term, something that has not been a focus of this property for the longer term. What are we looking at in the near-term future? And we'll get into this in a moment. But we're looking to grow this asset from 50,000 ounces to roughly 90,000 ounces of production by the end of 23, early 24, with the addition of two heap leach pads, one in the north of our property and one in the south, to fully utilize the resources that are known today by processing low-grade material through the heap leach while continuing to feed high-grade material through the CIL plant. So we look for that production to grow, and given its remote nature of the operations, every unit of production that we continue to grow with effectively the same complement of people, our unit cost will continue to decline. I would say the crown jewel of the Cerrado story is the Monte Do Carmo project, our property, and the Serra Alta deposit within it. That's our first deposit of what we think will be many going forward. We have roughly 82,000 hectares in the state of Tocantins in Brazil, so a very mining-friendly state. We're not in the Amazonian jungle. We have access to great infrastructure, paved roads, power line through our facility, things of that nature. A lot of the gold is free, which really plays into why the PEA that was completed in 2021 was so robust. Within the PEA, we had roughly about 1.3 million tons of resource. Roughly 1 million tons of that made it into the pit that was designed at that point in time. We had an after-tax NPV of $617 million at $1,600 gold, 8-year mine life, and an all-in sustaining cost over those 8 years of roughly $612 per ounce. Really focused on the first 5 years by the mine sequencing. We expect those first 5 years to be perhaps one of the lowest cost gold mines in the world at roughly $430 per ounce based on the numbers in 2021 over those first 5 years, generating annual free cash flow of roughly $150 million a year for over that time frame. So again, those first 5 years, you're going to get a rapid payback on this asset. And as I said, and I'll demonstrate in hopefully a few slides, the potential to host multiple Serra Altas is robust. Very quickly on the corporate summary, the stock is very tightly held. Management and directors still hold 40% of the asset, having come out from the private vehicle. We have coverage from Haywood and Cormark, and hopefully we'll expand that as we go forward. I think the slide on the top right, or yes, top right for you, sorry, really demonstrates what this story is all about in terms of the growth profile. Between now and the end of 25, when we expect to finish the feasibility and be in production in Brazil, we're looking at a 500% growth rate. At the same time, a 50% reduction in all-in sustaining costs as we continue to grow our production portfolio going forward. So how are we going to get there? When you look at the key mileposts that we have to go through over the next couple of years, on the top we see Argentina. We have started development of the heap leach project number 1, if you want to call it that. Currently, we're in the civil works period. That should be up and running by the end of Q1 23. And that'll add 20,000 ounces to our 50,000 ounces of production run rate there. And then we'll grow that with the second heap leach facility later in the year, about Q1 24. That should be up and running, adding a further 20,000 or so ounces to the production profile. In Brazil, we expect to have an updated resource probably around year end, really emphasizing what's going to be in the feasibility study that we expect to be completing around the end of Q1. And we expect that feasibility study to be very much in line with the PEA. We haven't seen a lot of movement in Brazil in terms of the cost of various items. Obviously, Brazil is very much a mining district. A lot of the equipment is available locally. So we expect inflation in Brazil to be moderated, one, because the real is going in our favor. Based on that timeline, we would expect the construction license by late Q2, early Q3 of 23, move right into the construction phase and be in production by the end of 2024 with the ramp up in Q1 25. So a very aggressive growth profile, but I again highlight in Brazil, the team has done this multiple times before. We have a full Brazilian complement. They are moving forward. So just in the interest of time, just want to highlight where we are in Brazil. Tocantins State is not in the Amazon. We're very close to Palmas and other towns, so we have great access to infrastructure moving forward and really well positioned for rapid growth. But I think the real reason you want to look at this asset, one, obviously the Serra Alta PEA results. We can't knock those. You're getting a 95% IRR based at $1,600 gold. Maybe there's a little bit of inflation we're going to see, as everyone's seeing, and a little bit of conservatism built in by the engineers. But I think either way, this is still going to be a remarkable project as we move forward. But what I really want to emphasize here is the opportunity to find multiple Serra Altas. Serra Alta is one dot on the left-hand slide of this chart. It is full strike length for the whole 1.3 million ounces is roughly 600 to 700 meters. So very, very small, very compact. We have mapped over 30 kilometers of mineralized trends on our property and really haven't had a chance to really explore the district on any meaningful way going forward. So once we bed down this first asset, we look at it as the anchor for this property, and then we'll continue to get out there and continue to explore. And we expect, again, more like a hub and spoke sort of operation just to continue to feed our existing mill or the potential to expand it in the future. We already have a number of targets to chase up going forward. At this time, they have a couple of drill holes, a couple of sniffs, but really we need to get back in there and do some more work. I'm just going to skip over this section. Minera Don Nicolás in Argentina really is a very robust operation now, the team having really turned it around dramatically. But I wanted to demonstrate our property there, which is in green, right smack dab between Cerro Moro and Cerro Vanguardia. And really to emphasize this, what we're planning here, what we're doing here is obviously we've got the mine fixed and turned around based on the open pit operation that was in place. Both Cerro Vanguardia and Cerro Moro are now both operating underground, roughly 50% of their feed. They're also operating heap leach facilities. So what our plan is nothing new for the area. It is the best way to utilize your entire resource base. The other thing we find a lot of comfort in is this. Today, when we acquired the asset, the group ahead of us were not mining companies. They were involved for various other reasons, but they were not explorers. So they were working off the resource base that they had acquired prior to us and really didn't add to it. When you look at Cerro Vanguardia, look at Cerro Negro, you look at Cerro Moro, and look what a modest amount of exploration can do. It can radically change the potential offered by this property. And we think as we go forward, now that we've bedded down the operations, it's not requiring any capital outside of its own self-generating capital, which is being reinvested at this time. We think the potential here to continue to grow the resources, continue to add to the mine life going forward will be robust. And as Argentina comes out of its current sort of hibernation on the capital markets, I think this will be something that right now the market is not paying for. So very quickly, just because I'm running out of time here, we're also looking at going underground underneath our high-grade pit called Paloma. We know the ore is there. The pit stops in mineralization, so we expect to ramp off the side of this pit and start adding material that's 8 to 10 grams per ton as supplemental feed. So that's the Cerrado gold story in a nutshell. Extremely strong near-term production growth profile, 2 world-class assets in prime jurisdictions, and a management team that's done it before. So with that, I'd like to wrap it up. Thank you.